I'm also...
Hello, good evening everybody. We're going to make a start. It's 7 o'clock. We're at tonight's Cabinet meeting. So before... Is it working? Yes, it is. Yeah, obviously. I'd like to remind everyone present that the meeting will be recorded for publication on the Council's website and should be available within 3 working days of this evening's meeting. So we'll open up with the agenda, item 1, which is apologies for absence. Clearly, as I'm sitting in the main chair, everyone will understand that Councillor Gledhill is not here. He is poorly tonight and is without voice. Some might say it's a blessing, but we do wish him all the best, clearly. So I'm your chair tonight. Any other apologies for absence?
Chairman. Caring side of the council.
21st?
Not his 21st, his son's 21st.
I'm sure Rory wishes. Anyway, good luck. I hope that goes well. Okay, so we are going to go through minutes of the previous meeting, which start on page 5. Is there anybody that wants to comment on the accuracy of the minutes of the previous Cabinet meeting? No? Silence assumes assent? Okay, all right, I'll put forward that the minutes are approved from the previous meeting. Is it all agreed? Wonderful. Item 3, items of urgent business. I have not agreed to any items of urgent business, so we'll move on to agenda item 4, which is declarations of interest. Does anybody have any interests to declare this evening?
No.
Thank you. Statements by the leader, or deputy leader as it is tonight. So just to go through a few bits of information. So one around Clean It, Cut It, Fill It, I think first and foremost. So the pilot began in May, June of this year. We're now up to 10,000 bags of litter that have been collected across the borough, of which 2,000 are an additional due to the investment that the administration have made. We've cut about 3,000 acres of grass and 1,850 bags spaces. This doesn't want to talk to me. We've also filled in 7,000 potholes as part of the programme to fill in all the potholes across the borough. And I think, let's be clear and fair to the people of Thurrock, there is still so much more to do. But the fact that we've done 7,000 potholes through the investment of Clean It, Cut It, Fill It is obviously testament to the ambition of the scheme. Moving on, the leader has engaged in meetings with Essex County Council leaders and the Police and Crime Commissioner, specifically around illegal encampments across the authority and across Essex. There's been a number of good wins there. Only 24 hours after that meeting was held, a warehouse which was had to put this taken over by an illegal encampment was vacated again through the appropriate mechanisms, policies, etc. So once again, we said we wouldn't be a soft touch. We are not being a soft touch. And the good thing is, because we're partnership working across Essex and with the Police and Crime Commissioner, we're seeing results happen. And I think it's been all too long since we've had those results, so that's really good. Something which is close to some of our hearts, for those of us that are on the Manaway at 5 o'clock in the morning on 1 July weekend, was the very positive news through the collaboration of this and the police services, was that last Friday we saw the first fixed penalty notice applied to the trap racing crowd, who gave some resistance, but I would like to put on record, and I'm sure the administration support me when I say this, that everybody who had an involvement in making that happen, well done. You've represented the voice of Thurrock and the voice of people in Corringham and Stamford on the day and across the wider picture across the borough. So thank you very much. I would also pay tribute to Councillor Brian Little, who has supported that vehemently. Again, thank you very much. So that's pretty much it from Leaders Update, or Deputy Leaders Update as it is. Item 6, we move on to briefings on policy, budget and other issues, of which we'll start our first discussion around section 6.1, pages 13 to 28, the Q1 Corporate Performance Report 2016-17. You're over there. Councillor Stewart, I'll let you introduce the report, please.
Thanks, Chair. The whole purpose of the performance report is to make sure that we give our residents the best level of services that we can and reduce any problems. So with that in mind, we're taking a more holistic approach to performance and not just looking at key performance indicators or targets, but including customer service calls and complaints, so that we can really look at where the issues lie by pooling all the information together and start to become more proactive in the aim to actually stop problems arising in the first place. Services nearly on target but not quite won't be hidden under a screen of amber anymore. Saying that things are nearly good enough for Thurrock residents isn't good enough. They deserve the best that we can give them. So now it's much easier to see exactly where we're failing, because all those ambers that were nearly good enough, that aren't good enough, are now recorded as failed as well. So our intent is to make people's lives better, and the new report design really clearly shows where those problems and issues lie, and they'll be highlighted to Cabinet members on a monthly basis, not only asking for the causes of the problem but also what action is going to be taken, so that we can start to see some improvement on the situation for residents. We want to not just be benchmarking against national standards, but also examining our own historical data and benchmarking ourselves to ensure that we do continually improve, because the whole intent of this is to make everybody's lives better. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Colleagues across the table, does anyone want to make a contribution to the report? No? No? Okay. So I think you hit the nail on the head very well, Councillor Stewart. The one thing I would say is that KPIs is such a boring topic for so many people. It really is. But there's a few of us, you and me. Yeah. You one of those people? I'll put you on the spot now. It's one of those things which, if done in the right way, delivers the right result. Because the intent of this is to make people's lives better. And why I'm particularly enthralled with the work you're doing, Councillor Stewart, or you're asking us to undertake as well, is by having a hard look at what we measure. Because we can measure anything. It doesn't mean it's going to make a difference, or it doesn't make the difference that people or our customers need. So therefore, the work that you've asked us to do to look hard at what we're measuring in our directorates and portfolios is critical. And I look forward to that piece of work culminating over the coming months. Okay, one thing from me, Councillor Tolson. Obviously you had your report at Cleaner, Greener, Safer Committee last night around enforcement and dog fouling. How did that go?
Sorry, I omitted to say something.
Permission granted.
Yes, I omitted to say something. Are we on the... Yes, we are. Am I jumping ahead? No. Right. Okay, I do beg your pardon. I thought. Well, I'll say what I'm going to say. Yeah. I've got confused here. On the environment part, page 16. Oh, is this the section we're on?
Yes, it is.
Right. Okay, I do beg your pardon. I thought somebody else was speaking before me. So, environmentally, with the collection of the bins across the borough, when I first came into post, I was inundated with emails from miscollections. I think we've come on leaps and bounds. We've put some strategies into place in the waste department where the charge hand, that's probably not the right term, but the driver who's responsible for making sure those bins are collected is asked why they've been missed, and because of that it's going down, the missed collections are going down. But of course we can't always have all our freighters in service, sometimes they do break down, and we will be renewing those or look to renew those in the future. But on the KPI front, I have asked that I would like one for a KPI for bins returned to the point of collection. Because so many times now, residents come home and the bin might be in the driveway or it's in the road. if it's not put back on the pavement, the public highway, where it was collected from, and if it's left in the middle, then pushchairs can't get round it, and mobility impaired people that are using mobility scooters. So I think that would be a KPI I would like to see, and I think our residents would recognise that as well. On the enforcement documents, I was invited to CGS last night, Cleaner, Greener, Safer, and I was happy to attend. It was my pleasure. For people that might not be aware, the council and this administration would like to introduce a fixed penalty now for littering, because despite the enormous amount of public bins we have in our town centres and around the borough, there's an element of the public, residents, that choose not to use it and put their waste on the floor. So we've done it gradually. We've educated for so long. Now we have got the agreement of CGS, Cleaner, Greener, Safer, to go with an enforcement programme. So that went very well. It was fully supported, and looking forward to having some enforcement officers in our town centres.
Hear, hear. Thank you very much. Okay, colleagues, is there anything else anyone wants to add to the report section 6.1? No? Okay, so the recommendations 1.1, 1.2, to note and comment upon the performance of key corporate which are in focus, and to identify any areas which require additional consideration. Are they approved? Approved. Or agreed? Agreed. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7, petitions submitted by members of the public. There have been none. Agenda item 8, questions from non-executive members. There have been none. Section 9, matters referred to the Cabinet for consideration by an overview and scrutiny committee. Again, there have been none. So, we're going to get straight on to the business at hand. Councillor James Howden is going to introduce Section 10, which is the 21st Century Wellbeing Services for Children and Young People, on pages 29 to 68. James.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Well, this is exciting. Modern children's centres. I've spent the day travelling around various children's centres in the borough with officers. The message is that children's centres can be a phenomenal resource, but they've got to be modern, and they've got to look beyond a traditional offer, and that means looking beyond traditional multiple buildings set up here and there. You know, children's centres shouldn't just be separate buildings dotted around offering a couple of basic education services to some families, some children, a few teenagers. We want a comprehensive offer working with targeted groups to actually help change people's lives. This paper means that children 0 to 19 can gain a huge access of services that perhaps they didn't even know were services from the local authority, from health partners, that can really help them. Hopefully the new planned arrangements will actually help us end the tragedy that we see when we see some young people who have issues with their health, issues with their education that probably stem from early years, and we think to ourselves, if only we'd intervened sooner, because we've got the type of services that would have helped them. And hopefully this will actually achieve that. Yes, it's going to mean fewer buildings, but it's going to mean better services, and I think we should say clearly we will show leadership and we will take action to bring about this change. You know, we've got new public health powers, we've got older skills in the council like our employment services. We need to make sure that we don't just hold on to old ways of working, because that means we're going to lose the potential of taking on new powers like public health, to actually integrate and offer wraparound services for young people. This also means that our services can look beyond obvious issues. They'll be able to share data. You know, quite simply, this scheme isn't going to work if it's just different council services co-located in the same building. We're talking about proper integration, where from 0 to 19 years of age, it doesn't matter how you access the front door. Our full range of health services, our employment services will be there for you, because we have an integrated system, and as an authority, as a corporate body, we will see the entire young person, and that's very important. And we'll also be able to see past that young person. Elements of skills training from the adult education college can be integrated to ensure that if we're seeing a young person with issues, we can also see the type of environment they're coming from and offer outreach support to the families as well. We're committed to a smarter service. This rationalisation of the service is actually going to yield a massive efficiency of about £1.4 million a year. So that would be a permanent cost out of the base. And by saving money, it can ensure that these better, smarter services that are targeted at young people are sustainable for the long term, because they will get to the people who really need them, and at the same time they'll be on a firm financial footing, and that's very, very exciting. Obviously from now there's going to be robust consultation with shareholders regarding how this is going to be rolled out, and that will inform the tender process next year. I've also put in place a project board that you'll see under the recommendations to ensure that all parts of the council are talking to each other as we go forward. But I think this is an exciting modern way of providing services, and I think it's going to do a great deal for young people in Thurrock.
Thank you, Councillor Howden. Colleagues, do we have any commentaries or questions? Councillor Susan Little.
Thank you, Councillor Howden, for such a brilliant report. And, you know, at least now things are moving forward. We've got a whole service, we're looking at the whole child, not just parts. We're opening up the service. At last we've got joined up thinking, which I don't think we've had the opportunity to have done before. And I really welcome this report, and I think, you know, it's definitely the way forward. So thank you for that, and thank you for pushing it through, because I know how hard you've worked on getting this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Sue McPherson, followed by Councillor Coxall.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think the title of the report says it all: 21st century wellbeing service for children and young people. I mean, it's a dynamic title, it's a dynamic report, and as Councillor Little said, it's looking to the future, it's looking forward. For too long this council has looked back, but now we've got this fantastic report and it is looking forward. Councillor Holden, on page 42 you mentioned the earlier offer of help. Can you just explain that a little bit more in detail for me?
Yes, thank you, Councillor McPherson. The whole point of this report is we actually want it to deliver for young people that type of service integration. Initiatives like the early offer of help, the troubled families team, they allow us to intervene in people's lives to try and prevent onset issues. That's good for our budget because it means that serious issues don't escalate into dramatic issues, and so on and so forth. And it's obviously much better for the young people because we can get them help faster to try and prevent those issues. And more importantly, with stuff like the early offer of help, by making sure that instead of just thinking about individual buildings dotted around and separate services, education services, health services, we can get that integration, which means we actually deliver on the health and wellbeing strategy. You know, it's all well and good having these strategies, but unless they actually deliver, they're just a very lengthy document. You know, some of the goals from the health and wellbeing plan, making sure all children are making good educational progress. Integrating services this way means it becomes just a matter for social care, just a matter for public health, to ensure that we are operating a service that looks at children. Are they making good educational development? So it actually helps us deliver on all these good intentions we've got dotted around in different plans.
Thank you. Can you just clarify, at the end of this process, will we see the buildings being used more? Empty buildings and small services, will we see more efficient use of our buildings and our stock of our business?
Thank you, Councillor Coxall. Yeah, vastly. So in areas where we've got the most acute need, Tilbury, Purfleet, so these areas where we need to provide targeted support, existing buildings, in the case of Tilbury, will stay. In the case of Purfleet, will eventually be upgraded as a part of the wider Purfleet regeneration. In other areas where the buildings, you know, we're talking about large buildings, they're not always used fully. Quite a few of them are going to be retained for early years support, but they're going to be leased in line with the council's corporate asset strategy. So if we've got nurseries, for example, many nurseries do a wonderful job, but they're a commercial outfit. We've got buildings they can use. We've got a great deal of space they can use. It's not being well utilised at the moment. That'll be a major revenue stream for us, which obviously takes the burden off the taxpayer and make sure these services are more sustainable in the long term.
Thank Thank you. Any more questions, comments? No? I think, before I just move on to the recommendation, I think the paper and the intent behind the paper is both innovative and bold. Very much for the right decisions. I particularly like the fact that you, through the project board recommendation, Councillor Haldon, you're trying to enhance the offer by making sure all key stakeholders have a contribution into the future state of this service. And the fact that buildings won't just be sitting there bone idle doing nothing, but fully utilised, it's not only good business, it's good community sense as well. So I will move the you'll move the recommendation, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. And I'll just say that the facilities I visited today with officers, I mean, we've got some tremendous staff in some of these buildings that are doing a tremendous service, and I think this is the next step in what Councillor McPherson picked up on the 21st century service. We've got some tremendous staff, and I think this is going to really unlock some potential. So I'm happy to move recommendations 1.1 to 1.6 found on page 31.
Are we in agreement?
Agreed.
We agreed. Excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor Haldon. I'd say you can have a breather, but you can't. Item 11, the reprocurement of the Integrated Adult Substance Misuse Treatment Service, which can be found on page 69 to 80. Councillor Haldon, could you introduce your report, please?
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Obviously, this is a key service that provides recovery-based treatments for adults with drug and alcohol issues. Obviously, it's coming to Cabinet because the maximum contract cost over the period will be £6 million. I do have to reference the public health team. They've done a tremendous work. There have been so many contracts we've inherited from the PCT or from other bodies. Simply renegotiating contracts, driving a better deal, driving a smarter deal. The public health team have done an astonishing job. In this contract alone, we're going to be making a saving of up to £100,000. No cuts. This is just better contract terms. It's smarter procurement. So just driving pure savings out like that is a great piece of work. Obviously, there have been some concerns with the current service in terms of safety. The Director of Public Health has robustly kept me constantly informed regarding the work he's doing with CQC and the CCG regarding some of our concerns based on safety issues. However, all the contracts are due to expire soon anyway, so I feel the correct course of action is for us to go to a full retender to make sure all the services are fit for purpose rather than simply allowing the contract to be granted extensions.
Thank you, Councillor Haldon. Contributions? I personally think this is very clear cut. I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. I move recommendation 1.1 and 1.2 found on page 70.
Are members in agreement?
Agreed.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to agenda item 12, the procurement of the Healthy Lifestyle Service. So for a change, we've got Councillor James Haldon introducing his third report. Councillor Haldon, please introduce your report.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. This is giving me a tremendous resource for young people, a new service to help the health of Thurrock, but certainly help our young people. At the moment, as I've said on the previous paper, we inherited a huge amount of inefficient contracts, and more to the point, we inherited a huge amount of bitty contracts. It was a fragmented service. It's not efficient, it's not a good deal for the taxpayer, and it's not a good deal for the people that it's meant to be serving by harassing people who have been smoking for years. It wasn't a good service, let's be clear. I said in my report to full council that I wanted a new focus on health issues in schools and not just trying to get consenting adults to stop smoking and drinking and so on. Obviously, we need to provide support for those who want to make positive lifestyle changes, because it's good for them, it's good for the budget, it's good for the NHS, but I want a service that focuses what is in schools and actually it'll be one tender, it'll be 1 point of contact, and you'll see under the that there will be a general obligation to engage with schools and to aid work in schools such as weight management, smoking, drinking, drug use, to try and tackle these issues. We have got generational issues in Thurrock. That is why actually making this big commitment and putting a serious service behind this work is so important. The effect of this work will be a better service. It will change health outcomes from a young age to help end some of those generational issues I alluded to. And it also generates a whopping £700,000 of savings over the lifetime of this contract. So again, this is a great deal all around, a new service working with schools and the wider community, and we'll bring it in a way that is equitable to the taxpayer.
Thank you, Councillor Howden. Colleagues? Councillor Brian Little.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, and thank you, Councillor Holden, for your report. You mentioned engaging with schools. How are you going to engage with schools?
Thank you, Councillor Little. You'll see under recommendation 1.3 that I've tabled that there will be a general obligation for the provider to evidence that they are fully engaging with schools and the local authority. So as we go through the tender process, myself and the Director of Public Health will be looking into this a great deal. There will be a general obligation to engage with schools to try and turn around those generational issues. Like I said, so it'll be built into the contract, and also referencing the fact that we're doing a great deal of work in regards to sports in schools, and that will help us, again, what I said about the health and wellbeing strategy, it will help us deliver these plans. For example, more children active in sports. We're putting a service in place and putting money behind a service. So the type of visions that are articulated in the health and wellbeing strategy about young people in schools, we're actually putting something behind that to actually as a delivery vehicle. So that recommendation is there for that reason. I'm sure it will do a great job going forward.
Any more? No? Okay, James or Councillor Howden, you've got 3 recommendations in front of us. Would you like to propose them, please?
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Move recommendations 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3 found on page 82.
Thank you. Are Cabinet agreed with the recommendations? Agreed. Agreed. Thank you. Soon I shall introduce a report without the words James and Howden in it. They're very good reports. So, agenda item 13, improving standards in primary care. Report of Councillor James Howden. Could you please introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Deputy Leader. You would think that some officers get haranguing emails from me asking them to draft me things. This is a key pillar of administration policy, accountability and improvement in the primary care system. Thurrock's first ever standards plan for GPs. This is what leadership looks like. This is what I announced in my full council report. Let's be clear, I see the ambition here is the same ambitions we've got for schools. We constantly say we want to see all schools as good or outstanding, but we've never really articulated the same ambition for GPs because they've always been seen as a slightly different service in that regard. It means that we need to be robustly pointing the finger when we've got a bad GP service. But a part of pointing the finger is also extending a hand to help them improve. That's what happened with schools in terms of our stronger schools supporting our weaker ones, not just constant council intervention, that peer-on-peer critical friend relationship. And that's what I think we can create here, and this is how we're going to do it. Firstly, our public health team are producing metrics that are relevant to individual communities. Obviously, we've got CQC inspections, but that is a national regime. This will be local metrics that make sense for individual populations. By doing that, we can use the Health and Wellbeing Board as a delivery arm. So we'll be able to bring all our health partners and wider partners in the council around the same table, and we'll be able to go over the information that is pointing us to either concerns or other issues amongst our primary care network, and we can get that critical friend relationship to force forward that improvement in the same way that It worked when we had strong schools challenging and helping support weaker schools in multi-academy trusts. The Health and Wellbeing Board will really sing for its supper. Secondly, it means the Council and Health Watch working together to grow patient participation groups, the GP equivalent of school governors. We're going to raise the expectations of what people should expect from GP services. People have got very used to, over decades, just taking what they're given, and that's not acceptable. We want to lend more strength to this robust critical friend relationship, and growing a local, stronger network of PPGs is a great way to do that. Obviously, we always need to take data with a pinch of salt. There are often complex reasons behind performance, and we can't always rush to blame based on overly simplified analysis of data. So this will be a very sober process. It will be a very academic process, and the message is that, yeah, we've got a stick, but we've also got a carrot. The carrot is improved patient outcomes, and we want to work with you. We want to drive these improvements. I've been visiting GPs and other health partners. I think there's a real hunger to make these improvements. We've got ambitions for GPs in the same way we have with schools, and this council is going to show leadership, and we're going to deliver it. This is key administration policy. It's what we promised in the election. It's what I outlined in my portfolio report. Bringing this sort of data together is an incredibly complex task. Nurturing this relationship is a very careful task, and taking on a primary care network that has got some inadequacies in it is a huge task. Bringing all this work together, I do just want to say, as portfolio holder for health, been supported by Roger Harris as my corporate director and Ian Wake as my director of public health. I've been remarkably well served as the cabinet member, and this paper really is testament to how hard my officers have been working behind the scenes for me.
You've blown it up. Thank you, Councillor Alden. Thank you, Roger and Ian, as well. Colleagues, any questions on the report? Councillor Coxall.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to see this, actually, because after many years of the problems, and it's a good analogy you've used between the schools and GPs and what's happened in schools and how we've moved on, and the last government and this government in its manifesto last year said that we've got to bring the same skill set nationally, looking at Ofsted and bringing the Ofsted and bringing CQC, now looking through the GPs. We have obviously many years of a certain failing establishments and just accepting it, and this is how will specifically this make sure that we, one, get more identified as poor GPs, and two, how can we show that Thurrock is a good place to set up a new GP surgery and increase the amount of GPs in the borough?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Coxall. At conference, one of the things that shocked me about what the Health Secretary said, shocked me in a good way, was he came out to do his speech, and he began by listing 3 awful incidents that had happened in the NHS, 3 appalling examples of failure within the system. I think Councillor Coxall has used the phrase before that the best disinfectant is sunlight, and by using these metrics, by bringing patients along the journey with us and raising local expectations and showing leadership in that way, that is the sunlight, that's the disinfectant we will bring, by highlighting poor examples and being entirely unafraid of holding them to account. And I've likened this a lot to the improvement in education. If you look what happened with some schools, look at Corringham Primary, we slipped into a very bad state a few years ago, and what happened? Other providers in the area, the Gable Hall Trust, they looked at it, they were robust with them, they said, these are areas where we think you are failing, and we think we can support you. And Corringham Primary today, I'm hoping we'll be able to force another Ofsted soon, because I'm confident that Corringham Primary is a good school. And it's had a remarkable improvement because of that peer relationship, and because Gable Hall showed leadership in the same way that I want this authority to show leadership, and that will change the perception of the borough. We will get young doctors who want to come here and want to set up and want to work, because they will see the healthy integrated living hubs that we're going to be building, and they will see a strong, vibrant GP community working in tandem with other health partners in the local authority. This will become the place of choice that people want to come and work.
Hear, hear. I think sentiments that will resonate perfectly within our constituents, Councillor Howden. Any more commentaries or questions to the portfolio holder? No? Okay. Councillor Howden, would you like to propose your recommendations?
With pleasure, Deputy Leader. I move recommendation 1.1 on page 97.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Excellent.
I
A well-deserved report.
I think Councillor James Howden should do the next report as well.
You've stolen my punchline. It never gets boring. Thank you, Councillor Howden. Things that really address what people are talking about in the community. Okay, agenda item 14, page 111 onwards to the back of the agenda. I'm going to introduce another gentleman called Councillor Brian Little tonight, Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport. Councillor Little, could you introduce your report, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry to disappoint everybody that Councillor Holder's not going to carry on for another. Parking Strategy 2016. This report was parking strategy and policies. To replace the existing document, which dates from 2007. Over this period, the Council's stock of off-street parking has increased, along with a number of controlled parking zones which have been introduced in response to a rise in commuter parking, particularly around stations. Technology has also moved on, both in terms of the equipment which enforcement officers carry around with them on the streets, and in terms of the web-based systems which are used for ticket processing. However, the greatest change from the 2007 document is the increased emphasis being placed on encouraging and enforcing appropriate and considerate HGV parking. Since the last parking strategy was published, HGV travelled kilometres in Thurrock has increased from 83,000 to 87,000. We welcome this increase as a reflection in the growing number of jobs and prosperity in the borough. However, we recognise the need to do more, because we can't carry on as we are at the moment. Both as a council and in collaboration with partners such as the Police and Highways England, we need to protect residents from the negative impact of this growth. In June 2016, we introduced a new team of civil enforcement officers to focus on inconsiderate and illegal HGV parking. In the space of a little over 3 months, 2 officers have issued 1,721 penalty charge notices, largely to HGVs. An earlier draft of the refreshed parking strategy and the policies 2016 has been discussed at Planning, Transportation and Regeneration Overview and Scrutiny at their meeting on the 13th of September. The comments made by members at the meeting have been incorporated in the proposed adoption drafts that you have now. I'd like to thank my officers for their ongoing efforts engaging in this increasingly complex scenario. Any questions? I'm gone quiet.
I think we're at all. Notices that have been issued, Councillor Little.
Not enough.
But more to do. That's the next stage. Right, questions and commentary from Cabinet colleagues around the table. Councillor McPherson and then Councillor Tolson.
Thank you, Councillor Little, for this report. I think every report this evening has been an example of looking forward, and I think this is just another fine example of the progress and improvement that we're making for the residents of the borough. I mean, the tickets issued are just another fine example that Thurrock's here for business. We're not going to be messed with, and you can't come and commit, offences against us and just walk away with it. We are going to take action, and for that, Councillor Little, I thank both you and your officers. Thank you.
Here. Do you want to reply to that? Best wishes there?
Thank you.
I think if I did, I think we've just done a bit of maths, haven't we? I think yours is probably a bit more accurate, but 17 per day. And that's not even working days, is it? We just did that.
That's every day of the week.
Every day of the week.
3 months.
That is remarkable. And you know what? It goes back to your point, Councillor McPherson. We are doing this because it's what people want, or at worst need from us. They need those safeguards, as you say. The sometimes negative consequences of quite big regeneration can have impacts, and this policy is absolutely on the nail. Absolutely on the nail. Councillor Tolson.
Thank you. Yep, sometimes in our borough, HGVs can park in inappropriate places, and that causes obstruction and danger to other motorists and traffic users. Do you agree that antisocial behaviour goes with it as well as littering?
I do agree, yes. And to that point, we are now looking at lay-bys around the borough that we can implement or try to implement changes to their effectiveness or not towards that antisocial behaviour. And we're looking at closures. With Highways England, we're discussing at the moment down the Tilbury Dock Approach Road, and I instructed the officers to close the lay-by along the A128, which would become a real problem area, particularly for children walking to school. They shouldn't have had to see and put up with what was going on there, and that has been shut off for the last 2 weeks, which is really good news for the people in the area, and it sends a message out to lorry drivers that we're not prepared to put up with their behaviour. If they behave in a reasonable manner, we want them in the borough, in our lorry parks, and doing business with our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more questions for the portfolio holder? No? Councillor Little, do you want to propose your recommendation, please?
Yes, I'd like to propose.
Brilliant. Colleagues, do we agree? Agreed. Very strongly. Thank you very much, Councillor Little. I believe that draws us to the conclusion of our meeting, which was a very forward-focused look at what we're going to make better about Thurrock. Thank you for everyone for attending. Officers, councillors. Councillor Sue Little has just interrupted me. Go on, fly.
Sorry, because I thought you'd have any other business, but as you know, children are dear to my heart, and I always think, and I would like perhaps we ought to always remember how many children we've got in care within the borough, and tonight we have 347 of them, because as corporate parents we ought to be aware how many children we have and how many we have to look after, and it is important, and somehow I would encourage ourselves and other councillors to go out and actually engage with some of those children and see what it's like to be looked after and be brought up in care. So I am going to be really boring about this, and every cabinet is tell people how many we've got. Thank you.
I think that's quite all right. That's quite all right. No, it's a point that's close to your heart and all of our hearts, and we've always got more that we can do, Councillor Little. So I absolutely agree. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close the meeting at what I think, with my poor eyesight, is about 1943. Thank you very much for everyone for attending and contributing. Thank you.